So we can start the official part. Thank you very much for joining once again. This is our this year third roundtable that UNDP Georgia initiated with the support of the Czech government, Czech UNDP Partnership for SDGs from Istanbul Regional Hub. And today's conversation will be about technology and technology transfer, which will be presented by our yet another Czech partner and UNICO.ai and their representatives. And before we move to the official part, we will be recording the conversation, so the roundtable. So if you have any objections, please tell us. Otherwise, if you would like to listen to the Georgian translation, you move on the translation button to French. If you would like to hear English, mark the English. My name is Khatuna Sandoshvili. I'm from UNDP Georgia Innovations Specialist. Our organizing team consists of 3 people: Carla Kotkova, who is our expert supporting the roundtable, as well as Jonas Heger. And we are happy to introduce our opening speakers today. We are happy to have our Ministry of Education, Science, Culture and Sports of Georgia represented by Tamar Samkharadze. And Tamar, over to you.
Thank you. მოგესალმებით. პირველ რიგში დიდ მადლობას გიხდით მოწვევისთვის ასეთ საინტერესო ღონისძიებაზე. ჩვენი გუნდი დღეს ღონისძიებაზე წარმოდგენილი არ არის მხოლოდ პროფესიული განათლების დეპარტამენტით, სამინისტროს ყველა დარგობრივი დეპარტამენტი, როგორც ზოგადი განათლების, ასევე უმაღლესი განათლების და ასევე სტრატეგიული დაგეგმვის და საერთაშორისო ურთიერთობების დეპარტამენტი წარმოდგენილია დღევანდელ შეხვედრაზე. მე მოხარული ვარ, რომ აქვს პატივი ჩვენი გუნდის სახელით მივესალმო ღონისძიების მონაწილეებს და კიდევ ერთხელ მადლობა გადაგიხადოთ მოწვევისთვის. მოგეხსენებათ, რომ მიმდინარე წელი საკმაოდ რთული აღმოჩნდა თითოეული ჩვენგანისთვის და განსაკუთრებით განათლების სფეროსთვის, ამის ხაზგასმა ალბათ დღეს არაერთხელ მოხდება დღევანდელი ღონისძიების ფარგლებში და მე როგორც პროფესიული განათლების წარმომადგენელი ალბათ უფრო ამ სფეროს პერსპექტივიდან გამომდინარე გეტყვით, რომ ჩვენ ვფიქრობთ და არა მხოლოდ ჩვენ ვფიქრობთ, ასე ვთქვათ, საერთაშორისო შეფასებებიც აი ამ განვლილი პერიოდის გვარწმუნებს იმაში, რომ პროფესიული განათლების სხვა საფეხურებისგან განსხვავებით გაცილებით უფრო მოწყვლადი აღმოჩნდა COVID-ის გამოწვევების წინაშე. ეს არა იმიტომ, რომ ვთქვათ, სხვა სფეროები გაცილებით უფრო მომზადებულები იყვნენ, თვითონ ამ სფეროს თავისებურება, მისი სპეციფიკა, სამუშაო, ასე ვთქვათ, სამუშაო გარემოზე მისი ორიენტაცია, მისი პრაქტიკული ხასიათი ასე ვთქვათ, არ გვაძლევდა იმის საშუალებას განსაკუთრებით პირველ ეტაპზე, როცა ვთქვათ, შეწყდა საგანმანათლებლო დაწესებულებებში სწავლა და ზოგადმა და უმაღლესი განათლების საფეხურებმა სწრაფად მოახერხეს, ასე ვთქვათ, ონლაინ სივრცეში გადანაცვლება სასწავლო პროცესისა. ჩვენ პირველი რამდენიმე თვე გვქონდა, ასე ვთქვათ, ერთგვარი წინააღმდეგობები, როგორც საკუთარ თავთან, ასევე კოლეგებს შორის. დასაშვები იყო თუ არა ამ ყველაფრის გაკეთება პროფესიული განათლების სივრცეში. დაახლოებით რამდენიმე თვე დავჭირდა მოსამზადებელი სამუშაოებისთვის, რომ გაგვიანალიზებინა ის შესაძლებლობები, რაც არსებობს ჩვენს ქვეყანაში, როგორც ინტერნეტზე და შესაბამის გაჯეტებზე მასწავლებლებისა და სტუდენტების წვდომის თვალსაზრისით, ასევე დისტანციური სწავლების, მიდგომების ფლობის თვალსაზრისით, ეს არასდროს არ ყოფილა ჩვენი პროფესიული განათლების მასწავლებლების ტრენინგების, ასე ვთქვათ, პრიორიტეტულ პროგრამებში ასახული დისტანციური სწავლება, პირიქით მთელი ბოლო წლების ძალისხმევა მიმართული იყო იქითკენ, რომ მაქსიმალურად სამუშაოზე დაფუძნებული სწავლება, კომპანიებთან პარტნიორობა, რეალურ სამუშაო გარემოში, ასე ვთქვათ, როგორც სტუდენტის, ასევე მასწავლებლის განვითარება, ასე ვთქვათ, რომ არ ჩამოჩნდნენ ისინი ტექნოლოგიური განვითარების პროცესებს, რეალურ სამუშაო გარემოს და ეს ყველაფერი უკვე კოლეჯში იმიტირებულ სამუშაო გარემოში გადაიტანონ. თუმცა დავდექით იმ რეალობის წინაშე, რომ უკვე შემოდგომიდან ზაფხულის განმავლობაში ჩვენ სწავლა აღვადგინეთ საგანმანათლებლო დაწესებულებებში და უკვე შემოდგომიდან, როგორც კი პანდემია გამწვავდა, ვირტუალურ სივრცეში გადაინაცვლა, ასე ვთქვათ, პროფესიულმა განათლებამ. რა თქმა უნდა, ეს ვერ მოხერხდება ვერანაირად, ვერც ერთმა ქვეყანამ ეს ვერ შეძლო და სრულად წარმოუდგენელია, რომ სრულად, ასე ვთქვათ, პროგრამის მთელი მოცულობის დისტანციური სწავლების ფორმატში გადატანა იყო შესაძლებელი, თუმცა პროგრამების ანალიზის საფუძველზე დაიგეგმა, ასე ვთქვათ, ინდივიდუალური სასწავლო გეგმები და ეს პროცესი ჩვენ უკვე შემოდგომაზე დავიწყეთ. აქვე უნდა აღინიშნოს, რომ post-COVID პერიოდი ყველასთვის კარგად არის ნაცნობი, რომ იქნება საკმაოდ დიდ გამოწვევებთან დაკავშირებული ჩვენი ქვეყნის კერძო სექტორისთვის. ჩვენ უკვე დავიწყეთ ჩვენს პარტნიორ ბიზნეს ორგანიზაციებთან და იმ ორგანიზაციებთანაც, რომლებიც დღემდე პროფესიულ განათლებასთან არ თანამშრომლობენ, დავიწყეთ მათთან მჭიდრო კომუნიკაცია იმისთვის, რომ მაქსიმალურად ჩვენს ძალებზე რაც არის დამოკიდებული, შევუწყოთ ხელი ეკონომიკის და ბიზნესის ძალების სწრაფად აღდგენას, ეს ერთის მხრივ. მეორეს მხრივ, ასე ვთქვათ, თვითონ პროფესიული განათლების სივრცეში გვაქვს საკმაოდ დიდი გამოწვევები დიჯიტალიზაციასთან დაკავშირებით, როგორც ჩანს, COVID-ის შემდგომაც იკვეთება ეს ტენდენციაც და სრულიად ცალსახაა, რომ დიჯიტალიზაციის ტენდენცია შენარჩუნდება, ასე ვთქვათ, არა მხოლოდ განათლების სივრცეში, არამედ კერძო სექტორშიც, ბიზნესშიც და გარკვეული პროცესების ავტომატიზაცია და დიგიტალიზაცია სრულიად მოსალოდნელია, რომ გამოიწვევს გარკვეული პროფესიების გაქრობას, ასე ვთქვათ, ქვეყნის სივრციდან, როგორც ჩვენს ქვეყანაში, ასევე საერთაშორისო ასპარეზზე და ასე ვთქვათ, იმ ამოცანების შესრულებას, რასაც დღეს ადამიანები ეწევიან, ეს უფრო ეხება რუტინული ამოცანების შემსრულებელ ადამიანებს, ამას მთლიანად ჩაანაცვლებს ავტომატიზირებული პროცესები. ესეთია, ასე ვთქვათ, ის რეკომენდაციები, რაზეც ვთქვათ, შემდგომი პოლიტიკის ღონისძიებები უნდა ქვეყანამ დააფუძნოს საერთაშორისო ვთქვათ რეკომენდაციებს გულისხმობ და შეფასებებს ამ შემთხვევაში და ამდენად ჩვენ გეგმავთ, რომ მომდევნო წლების განმავლობაში უფრო დიდი აქცენტი გავაკეთოთ ისეთი კვალიფიკაციების განვითარებაზე და ისეთი სპეციალისტების მომზადებაზე, რომლებსაც სამუშაო გარემოში სჭირდებათ ავტონომიურობის მაღალი ხარისხი, დაგეგმვის უნარები, გუნდური მუშაობის უნარები, კომუნიკაციის უნარები და ასე შემდეგ. რისი ჩანაცვლებაც, ასე ვთქვათ, ვერ ხერხდება ხელოვნური ინტელექტით ამ ეტაპზე ყოველ შემთხვევაში და ამავე დროს მითვალისწინებთ იმას, რომ ქვეყანაში არის სოციალური და ეკონომიკური მდგომარეობა საკმაოდ რთული. ამ პროცესების ფონზე გარკვეული ტენდენცია შეინიშნება სწავლის მიტოვებისა. მე არ ვიცი, როგორ ხდება ეს განათლების სხვა საფეხურებზე, თუმცა პროფესიული განათლების საფეხურზე ეს ტენდენცია ნამდვილად შეინიშნება და ძალიან მნიშვნელოვანი, ასე ვთქვათ, ნაბიჯები იქნება გადასაწმელი იმისთვის, რომ ჩვენ ეს ადამიანები დავაბრუნოთ განათლების სივრცეში და შევთავაზოთ მას იმგვარი განათლების ხარისხი და იმგვარი უნარების განვითარება, რაც მათ დაეხმარებათ როგორც დასაქმებაში, ასევე თვითრეალიზაციაში და პიროვნულ განვითარებაში. ამდენად ძალიან მოკლედ ეს შემიძლია, რომ გითხრათ შესავალი სიტყვის სახით, თუმცა ვრჩები თქვენთან ერთად, მაქვს მოლოდინი, რომ გარკვეულ სიახლეებს უცხოელი კოლეგებისგან დღესაც მოვისმენთ, რასაც შემდგომ პრაქტიკაში იმედი გვაქვს გავითვალისწინებთ და დიდი ინტერესით ველოდები, ასე ვთქვათ, ღონისძიების შემდგომ განვითარებას.
Thank you very much, Tamar. It's an interesting highlight about the focus on digitalization and the new skill set that our vocational education sector kind of will be focusing on. I'm happy to move to our natural partner to the vocational education branch from the UNDP end, George Namapashvili, who is the head of economic development portfolio in UNDP Georgia. George, over to you for a brief intro. And thank you very much for being with us.
Good afternoon to everybody. Thank you for inviting, and congratulations to my colleague and our Czech partners and everybody for progressing in these directions. Yes, I agree with Tamar. COVID made many things more, made us to speed up more things, now we, how to say, there is a challenge in terms of development policy, how to quickly deploy new schemes, institutionalize them, so that we have adequate policies supported. There are different dimensions when we mention research, its applicability, its result orientation on most important results, and also relevance to SDGs. Nobody knows. We do initiate some work now to identify what is this quick, direct, midterm, and long-term impact of COVID on SDGs. There will be various disbalances. These balances will grow, and there will be completely different situation. Yes, we'll have vaccinated economies, non-vaccinated economies, trusted investors and consumers' confidence, and consumers also profile. Yes, spending profile. Sometimes we see economies where people spend $100 on branded masks, and we see also economies where we do not have even people who can access just normal access to simple masks also. Various research and promotion of digital ICT technologies, digital technologies is initiated by my colleagues, especially in my portfolio. I can talk in more details. Soon we'll release the study, which is ICT for development, with emphasis on rural rural actors actually. And this is something that is promoted by High Commissioner of EU. It was named as a priority for rural area, and actually new priority, because rural development stays as it is on the same pillars like economic competitiveness, diversification, social environment, and also local engagement. This is the EU model that we promote. Another thing is that this lack of access to digital technologies to rural areas, it will be additional impediment for their development. And this triangle, which is about signal, device, and literacy, should be balanced everywhere. We cannot afford that we have areas where there is disbalance in any form. So this study, I don't want to spoiler, but this study will soon be released, and there are different findings. We have even issues with private sector, how to deploy in, it's like portfolio management in case of ICT, case of providing broadband signal and others, so that private sector should also have profit on this. Yes, so it is not a simple thing like you just build cables, build this distribute the signal, and then you will just automatically get signals. Yes, you just invest and you expect something, and that is why some interventions are needed. Another thing is that even if you have signal and even if you have devices, the devices is also something that should last longer and have enough capacities, yes, to those who will use it in a more applicable way. Another thing is literacy and how to reach the elderly, those who have limitations in terms of language, and also it's also costly, yes, and we know many subsidy programs, and they should be expanded that it benefits more people. But another thing is that for what you use signal, what kind of benefit you take from that. And this is something that we also promote smart villages concept, which is about advancing supporting the rural development on villages level, with advancing in terms of making the services smart, digital based, and so on. Various farmers supporting information systems, various portals which are for shopping, various tools which are for exchange of information are implemented as a pilots in our target municipalities, and that will also be announced by us as a result. So this is something that we, how to say, look forward in these dimensions, and I also hope that I will get interesting topics also from this meeting. I don't talk much about the VET area, how we want to promote the digital tools there. This is about also VET system itself should provide skills, but on the other hand, VET system itself needs to be oriented more on digital, yes, because fully digital in VET is not welcome, but on the other hand, we should deal even with that. And there are many ideas that we will elaborate, and this week is full of events of EU supported skills week, where we discuss many innovations today. And this is also the area where we plan to introduce digitalized teaching materials, also methods for checking learning results, learning outcomes, and so on, which will be helpful very much. And also one thing is that in a simple shift to these online systems will allow us to decrease, making it traditional, yes, and operational, more useful for our clients, yes, users, will help us in eliminating the gap between the areas where experienced people exist and where this needs is, because everything is much concentrated on more urbanized areas, while rural areas sometimes do not benefit from the same expertise. So there are many unexplored potential areas which simply by linking existing resources and may bring to quicker results. I don't want to go further because I have much to say, to tell you, but this meeting, I know that is more to listen to your ideas, and thank you very much.
Georgi, thank you very much for your time and for being available at a short notice. An interesting focus, although we started with vocational education, I think an interesting focus on linking the invention and technology to development priorities like rural development and private sector linkages there at the local level. Before we move to our presenters, the structure of next set of our agenda is the following. We will listen to the presentations for the next 25 minutes. We will have a panel discussion followed by, and then an open discussion where you can ask questions and participate in the discussion. We will wrap up with a brief kind of review of our conversations so far and the future plans. We have one request before we move to presentations. We would like to know how many of you are from academia. Could you turn off your screens? Could everybody turn off the screens, and those who is from academia turn back screens back? Can you please? Stop video and then put it on. Academia, put the screens on, please. Only academia. Amazing. Okay. Now, academia, turn off the screen. მარტო ვიდეოს ჩართვა გამორთვას გულისხმობთ, ნანა.
მოგესალმებით. პეტრე მელიქიშვილის ორგანული ქიმიის ინსტიტუტი.
სასიამოვნოა ძალიან. ეხა კერძო სექტორმა ჩართოს თავისი ისინი.
უკაცრავად მოგესალმებით, ბოდიშს ვიხდით თამარ რუხაძე, ივანე ჯავახიშვილის სახელობის თბილისის სახელმწიფო უნივერსიტეტის მედიცინის ფაკულტეტი. მადლობა.
ძალიან სასიამოვნოა.
მე როგორც გითხარით, მოგახსენეთ აგრარული უნივერსიტეტი.
მოგესალმებით, უკაცრავად ვაჟა ტრაპაიძე, ივანე ჯავახიშვილის სახელობის თბილისის სახელმწიფო უნივერსიტეტის უზრდასაბუნების მეცნიერებათა მეცნიერებათა ფაკულტეტის დეკანის.
Okay. I think I initiated the Thank you. Yes. Good. კერძო სექტორმა თქვას, ეხლა გამორთოთ ყველა ისინი, რა ქვია, ვიდეოები და კერძო სექტორი, რომელიც არის private sector-ნა. მარტო კერძო სექტორმა ჩართოს თავისი screen. Yeah, quite a bit. Quite a bit. Thank you very much. არასამთავრობო სექტორი ყავს? ეხლა ყველამ გამორთო და არასამთავრობო ყავს? მარტო არასამთავრობომ ჩართოს.
საქართველოს წითელი ჯვრიდან თეიკო ჩიკვილაძე კიდევ მოგესალმებით.
გამარჯობათ კიდევ ერთხელ. Okay, I think Wojtek, you have approximately the kind of distribution. ყველა შეგვიძლია დავბრუნდეთ ჩვეულებრივად კამერებით, როგორც კომფორტულად გრძნობთ. And I'm very happy to hand over to our experts, to our guests today to present UNICO platform. Wojtek, please present yourselves and the floor is yours. Thank you very much once again.
Okay, thank you, Hatuna. Hello, everyone. I'll try to share my presentation. I'll mostly talk, just have the presentation just to let you get oriented in what I'm talking about. And we'll talk about the potential of academia to private or public sector knowledge and technology transfer and its potential for innovation. We have only 25 minutes. There's not much time. I'll try to keep it brief. And in advance, I'm sorry, interpreters, if I'm too fast. I tend to be too fast often. If I am, just let me know. I'll try to slow down. First, we'll talk about technology transfer in general, about relation between technology transfer and societal challenges, and what's the role of academia in general. We'll try to talk about steps, how to have some solution from a specific challenge. And based on our experience, we'll share some best practice examples from Czech Republic and from England, and we'll show some tools how to do it. First, maybe it's good to introduce ourselves. My name is Wojciech Nosek. I'm co-founder, co-owner of UNICO.ai. It's a private company, and we are focusing on technology transfer. So it means universities and companies will try to help universities to commercialize their intellectual potential better, and we try to help companies to get use of this huge intellectual potential at universities. And I've got here today with me my colleague Jiří Navrátil, who is on a vacation, so he's in his car office at the moment. But he's important for this roundtable for me because he can share a lot of experience from England when he worked in the Imperial College London. Jiří, could you please just briefly introduce yourself in a minute?
Sure. Thank you for a word. I'm Jiří Navrátil, but for foreign countries, I introduce myself as George because it's international name. So my name is George. Call me George, please. And I am a former scientist. I used to be a scientist. And after I finished my second PhD, I was not able to find a help in Czech to help me sell my research outcomes. So I look around and moved to London, to United Kingdom, where I was able to watch how they sell scientific outcomes from Imperial College. And from there is a lot of my experience, which I can share with you today or afterward. So we will share some cases from Imperial College where I was able to build startups or help companies to innovate their technological background. So that's me.
Okay, thank you, Jirko, for the introduction, and let's move on. First, what is technology and knowledge transfer? I won't talk through theory, but what is important, I have like two quite distinguishable types of technology transfer. And it's very much related to what we're talking today, how technology transfer or universities can help to solve or mitigate some global challenges. For me, what is quite often the case, the universities or the academia, they tend to come up with technologies with some solutions without the real need, and they try to get just used to it. For me, it's important, and that might be a good point for the discussion afterwards, how the academia should look for the topics they are researching. So for me, it might be important what are the academic partners working on. I call it like a passive and active technology transfer. We deal with this a lot in our business, and it's one of the key weaknesses when we try to help universities to commercialize some technologies and knowledge, that it's not grounded in real world needs or business needs or some challenges. So for me and for us as a business, it's very important to have these challenges and the topics we can work on, because if we start with the challenge, then the technology transfer is much more not only effective but useful for society. And the academic sector, as you probably know, is very specific, and our advantage is that we know both sectors. As Jiří mentioned, he is our star expert with 2 PhDs. I've got only 1 PhD, and so we have our experience from our research, and the communication between academia and the public sector. It's very different, and the private sector is like completely different. And what I sometimes lack in the discussion when we are talking about transferring knowledge from academia towards public sector or towards some society, what I lack very often is involvement of the private sector, because for me, private sector is very important in driving and sponsoring. Sometimes I'll get to this later, but sponsoring the activities. Now, maybe let's move on and try to figure out how we think this process could or should look like. Where should we start, and how should we move on? That's the first thing what I mentioned. It's technology versus need. Very often, researchers are motivated by, they have expertise in some field, and they have a lot of topics because they don't understand many things. So they are just accumulating knowledge, accumulating technologies, but there's no one who can use it. So for us, it's very important. The first very important step is to design what should be done. There are some basic questions we have to start with at the beginning. It might seem very simple, but usually almost none of those questions are asked at the beginning. So first, I should know what I'm doing. This is maybe very simple, but many people, if you go like, you really ask, are you sure what you're doing? They sometimes are too involved in the technology. They know what they're doing, and mostly they don't know why they are doing it. Am I doing it just to have some research, or am I doing it to help some private company to solve the problem? Am I doing it because I need to solve some societal challenge? Another step is to know how to do it, to have some plan how to solve the problem. And the most important thing, or the most important basic question is, who can deliver? And what is difficult sometimes, that the societal challenges are very complex. So it's very important to have multidisciplinary team, more experts from different teams. And in academia, it's not so easy, to communicate across disciplines, to communicate across universities, to communicate internationally, but to solve real societal challenges. And we'll give you examples from from the COVID times, it's necessary because societal problems are always very, very complex. So before execution of some projects is important, and that's key, as I mentioned, to design the goal. And you might not believe it, but 90% the goal disappears in a time and the project remains. So it's important to keep this in mind and have the goal of the project, of the activity, to have it in mind all the time. And what is important as well, in the brackets, knowing who the client is. By the client, it could mean society, it could mean the ministry, it could mean a private company, anyone. But to know what I'm doing and from whom I'm doing it is very, very important. And it helps you to design the goal and design the favorable outcome well. Second, it's important, as I mentioned, to find the right skill set. Who knows what? And it's very often very difficult to identify what skill set I need, and second, who has it, and then how do I find these people? If you have these people, you have a multidisciplinary team. That's something we'll maybe talk later about more in detail. To have some, brainstorming, some discussion. We have a specific methodology. We call it Ideal Up, and the goal is to define, or the final goal is to define the project and have some plan and just knowing what you are moving towards. Maybe the best way how to illustrate this is to share some best practice examples. I'll try to start with the one from the Czech Republic from recent times, and then I'll give word to George. I'm sorry, I don't have like English name, just Wojciech. It's sometimes a bit difficult to pronounce, but I'm Wojciech. And then I will give word to George to talk about how they did it in Imperial College London. So my best practice example, very relevant to these times, the COVID times. As was mentioned in previous talks, the COVID or the pandemic or in general the crisis has sped up things. Everything what took years or months could take weeks in this time. And what I think as a punchline at the end of the roundtable, it might be good to have a discussion. What can we take from this times, like a positive thing, and we can, work with it, even in times where we have no pandemic. Hopefully there will be times with no pandemic. So the example I want to talk about is from Czech Republic, from university, and it was probably similar in more countries, but in here we had a huge discussion at the start of the pandemic that there was a lack of, the masks and all these accessories you need to protect yourself, especially in critical infrastructure like hospitals. And Czech Technical University was very successful, and it took only several days actually to design a mask, a 3D printed mask, which what is, it's an interesting and important advantage of these times, could be shared via email, and anyone with the printing facility can print it out in a matter of hours. What was important, as I mentioned in the steps of the ideal technology transfer, is it could not be done by an individual expert, but an individual discipline. There were actually 3 or 4 different specialization, different experts, different departments, different university, which needed to collaborate to deliver it. They was actually able to deliver it within a week. They were able to print it in a quite interesting volume. And what is important in my point of view, and I'll probably keep on repeating it, the private sector was involved as well, because the university, first the university had the equipment and had the skill set, but there were also networks of private companies who were able to scale up, the production of the masks. What was important? It was not a business. All companies involved, they did it free, just offering their know-how, offering their capacities. Maybe it's not for free because it was PR, maybe, but still it helped tremendously to address, the challenge of the lack of protective masks. And on top of that, the technology, the blueprint, how to do it, was shared across the world. It was actually yesterday I saw a video where the NASA was actually just thanking for this project and printing these masks in the US. Which is kind of interesting, and it happened in the matter of weeks, like 3 weeks, and it was distributed, and only thanks to the pandemic, it could be sped up in this way. Maybe now I'll give word to George to share the system, how it works in Imperial College London, and maybe to ask him to highlight if there's something relevant to these, it's sad to say, the pandemic times.
Yeah, so my case is not from the time of pandemic. It's 10 years old already, but the situation was quite the same because we were challenged by a company who has a goal to establish a new production of concrete without a CO2 emissions. And at that time, nobody at Imperial College was, or even have an idea how to do that. So we went through the same process as just Wojciech mentioned, and we called the Idea Lab, which is a group of different multidisciplinary scientists with no idea how to solve the big goal, but with their own skills in their own fields of research. And at that meeting, it's something like brainstorming. We challenged them with a detailed description of the problem, which we prepared in advance. And at that brainstorming, we set up groups from 3 or 4 scientific groups, other like from those leaders, and they were able together to solve the bigger problem or the bigger challenge of the company. And the next meeting was just about how to do it, how fast we can do it. And it took like 4 months to set up a team and work on the subject, and established a startup or a spin-off from Imperial College, which was sold in 3 years after this Idea Lab. So it's quite fast process. And if we are challenging global pandemic, we can benefit from these multidisciplinary teams and challenge them with our problems. But we need to define these challenges, define these problems which they have to solve. And in academia, there is so many smart people and they love these challenges, if I can say. So it is quite fast process, and we saw how scientists are really able to build a multidisciplinary team and challenge themselves to deliver quite fast and a result. So this is my quick story from Imperial College. We did this process like the Idea Lab many times, and we are doing the same right now in Czech Republic with scientists. And the challenges are coming from big companies, and it's quite nice to see how these challenges can be solved by these multidisciplinary teams. But our strength at the Imperial College was that we know so many scientists that we know where to find them and invite them to participate at the Idea Lab. So I think this is the most important, to know your cards you're playing with, so you know where to find the smart brains to solve your problems. Wojciech, back to you.
Okay, thank you. Well, when we talk about how the technology transfer works and how we think it's the best to solve some challenges, be it the challenges from the private sector or being it like the huge societal big challenges. We need some tools. I mentioned several steps, very basic steps. I could talk like days about it, but we've got 25 minutes. But now let's talk about what can help us. First, the important thing, which is not involved in this slide, and I'd like to stress it again, I think it's very important to design what we're doing, to design the challenge and redesign it 100 times, and being sure what we are doing and why we are doing it. That's very important, and this, human-centered design principles are very important, so that we are not doing something which is not useful in future. This is very important, and we have to do it like many times during the project and checking if we are not like drifting somewhere else. And this might seem like obvious, but it's not obvious. The second thing, or the first one mentioned in here, data are important. Especially if we are talking about technology transfer towards the public sector, it's important to know for the public authorities who are the experts and whom to ask if we have a specific challenge. And honestly, in Czech Republic, it was very confusing at the beginning of the pandemic, because the government was just it was new for everyone, but the government was doing very ad hoc and sometimes weird things, because they were not sure whom to ask and who's the best experts, who can help them, how to set up a panel of experts. It happened already, but the first months of pandemic were like very chaotic, at least in Czech Republic. I think it was very similar everywhere. So for me, the important thing is to know what we have at home, to know what experts we have, where are the best experts, whom to ask if we need to solve something important. So in times of global or some crisis, it's very important to know where are the experts and what skill sets they have. The second tool for us is a methodology, how to, again, design the problem, design the plan, design the potential solution. We call it Idea Lab, and again, it might seem intuitive, just that we just gather experts and brainstorm, and then we have a plan how to solve a problem or a challenge. But it's very important to have this very well prepared methodology and steps, and how to start from a challenge to formulating a plan to a solution. And the third thing, which is very important and might not seem that important when we're talking about societal challenges, but again, for me, it's very important, is finding a sponsor. And by sponsor, I don't mean only money, just someone paying for it. I also mean a sponsor, someone who's like taking it as its like own project, someone who's like the one who's delivering it, to someone who is defining what is this project for. So finding like the person for whom we are delivering, or someone or entity or ministry, for example, or state from whom we are delivering it. So finding a sponsor, it's very important. And again, I think even though we are talking about transferring technologies and knowledge from academia towards a public sector, I believe that it's absolutely necessary to have the private sector involved in this from many reasons, not only finances, but it's also if you have a business ratio behind, the whole ecosystem works much better, and you are sure if the private company is involved, you are sure it might last longer than the project itself, because they always pursue business goals and which is money basically. So if there's a business model behind, all activities are have more longer term effects. So that's probably it. I'll thank you for your attention. I hope we are on time. But
you are on time.
Perfect, great. But just to give you our details, if you don't have time to talk about, because there's too many topics, too many questions, too many interesting questions, just contact us anytime. If it's possible, I'll definitely be going to Georgia in February, hopefully. At least skiing, but hopefully meeting someone as well, if it's possible. You can also read more about what we're doing on our website. Plus, when we're talking about data, we have, and it's one of our projects we are actually implementing in Georgia at the moment, is the Experts.ai, which is a database of experts we are having. So thank you again for your attention, and we probably have to move on.
Thank you very, very much. Thank you for being on time as well. And probably you will give us a little bit more kind of overview of what your plans are in terms of working in Georgia after our panelists have a floor, and so that our larger group has an opportunity to also ask questions and contribute. Thank you very, very much. What is remarkable about your speech for me personally is the focus on multidisciplinary work and the importance of designing, bringing the elements of design into the working process, as well as the ownership, like sponsor or the company or the entity that takes over whatever is produced.
Yeah. Ownership is a very good word. Thank you.
Yeah. So thank you very much. Let's see how this works in Georgia. See how our academic achievements are kind of in tune with the private sector requirements, or how are we contributing to this work on our side. It is my pleasure to introduce the Georgian panel and to give 5 minutes to each of the panelists to tell us how knowledge transfer and technology transfer from academic field is happening to private sector or public sector in Georgia in their respective entities. And then we can have a round of questions and discussions with them. First, I would introduce our panelists. We have Nino Gribelashvili, who is the Deputy Rector of Ivan Jarahishvili Tbilisi State University. We have Anna Lontadze from Business and Technology University, and Irakli Kashibadze from Future Laboratory. We will give you floor in this order exactly. So, if you could start, please, with Tbilisi State University, and then we'll hand over to Anna and then Irakli. Thank you.
Thank you for introducing me. First of all, I wish success to every project that is in the field of technological transfers and sharing and disseminating technological issues in Georgia and worldwide. At this moment, I'm introducing Tbilisi State University as a deputy rector, but so I was asked to give some information about the project that is run by Tbilisi State Universities and 11 other universities in Georgia. And I will speak in detail in a few minutes. So this is the project that is called Rising Research Capacity in Georgian Higher Education Institutions through developing research and development units. And the project name is HEART. At this moment, I want to tell to our international collaborators what is Tbilisi State University. It's the biggest HEI in Georgia with 7 faculties and 14 research institutes, and that way, we are providing excellent ground for interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary, and cross-disciplinary teaching, learning, and research. We have experiences in administering international projects, including Tempus Erasmus Plus, Horizon 2020, Marie Skłodowska-Curie, and also we have the experience in managing international consortia. At the project we called HERD, we are acting as coordinators and directing in all fields and administering this project. And it's done in close collaboration and cooperation with the European Union and local partners in order to achieve the objectives of project and support the development of highly performative research and developmental units at the target high educational institutions at the first level, and that spread this information all over the institutions which are presented in Georgia. We can say that HERD is a structural measure national project that involves, as I already told, 12 research-intensive Georgian universities, 3 European universities, Ministry of Education and Science of Georgia, EMIS, and associated partners are a National Center for Educational Quality Enhancement, Georgian Innovation and Technological Agency, GITA, and National Intellectual Property Center of Georgia, that is called Czechbased. The main aim of the project is to respond to major objectives for Georgian research and development strategy. We all know that in 2011, the research institutes were merged with universities, and the idea was to integrate research with teaching and strengthen capacity of research-intensive universities in Georgia. But this idea somehow failed, and in general did not contribute to research performance enhancement at large. Little focus on research development resulted in poor performance of Georgia in various international rankings. And that's why, to be upfront, research and developmental units in Georgia and this direction is still in free-floating mode and needs more strategic planning and development of both university and state levels. It is vital to improve performance of this type of units in universities and use this soft we are purchasing, and we are trying to bring the idea of soft to different universities for strategical plan of the direction of the field that we know it's the science to do research and to develop the research and work on forecasting future development perspectives. That requires existence of research data as well as high quality research management with proper research management tools to track overall performance of individual universities. 2 days ago, just a few hours ago, we met with Wojtek with Zoom platform, and we were speaking about this type of soft that will support us to share best practices of back-known universities, staff training, and refining their research management and data analysis skills are mostly oriented on inner market, not outside. Actually, I agree with this finding. The first time I tried to discuss this issue, but in reality, Georgian Research Portal, we think that it will help our universities to optimize our research capacity in various disciplines and set ground for institutional cooperation and extend the visibility of Georgia on international context and international arena. I think that's it. I think I use my time very correctly, and thank you for inviting. And as I have to add some few words that at this moment we were supposed to have this portal already, but due to Corona and some technical issues, we are still in process of establishing this soft and adapting this soft to Georgian needs and to requirements we set for the developers. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you so very much, Nino, and very non-Georgian adhering to timing as well. So very much appreciated. It's an interesting focus on forecasting the future trends and the focus on data apart from the technological solutions. And thank you for highlighting that. It would be interesting how Business and Technology University sees these trends, whether the same ANA would be the focus of your work, or how do you see your work in this light? Anna Lomtadze again from Business and Technology.
Thank you very much for organizing the panel. It's very important and very interesting, especially in today's times. I'll also take upon the offer of UNICO.ai that they're planning to join the community quite soon, and would definitely love to cooperate. And if that's okay, I'll be reaching out on that regards. I think it's very important that some of the trends that our partners have discussed are very common. We see the same challenges in the technology transfer component, and like we all agree here that the technology transfer is a very important component of supporting the economic development, and especially facing the fourth and fifth industrial revolutions worldwide. Recognized research centers, they've all saying that if we make it work, then we have the possibility for like lots of high rates of the economic growth. And it's not surprising that small countries like Georgia is struggling in many manners in that. We do see, we've been doing lots of research on that regards, and we've done research in terms of the countrywide, as well as how we can do, what we can do at the university level. Some of the problems that we have identified is obviously that there is no clear strategy for the country. There is no vector that has been chosen that we can follow up as per the university or as per the country. And that's a huge thing, because we cannot cover up everything. And we should, like, sooner we understand that we have a path that we will concentrate on, I think that will make sense. And it could be healthcare, it could be agri-tech, it could be fintech, or anything else, or some of them together. But like, I think that defining the clear vector is going to be very helpful at the initial stage. Besides that, I think there is also lack of efficient connection between education and business, and that's because there is not practice of doing that. And in that manner, like on our behalf, we're doing lots of raising awareness activities to support this connection, because whatever you're doing at the academia should be relevant to the today's market, and because this also provides the possibility to develop new products and new solutions, new technologies that could really alter the world. I think it just makes sense for the TESOL native director to talk about it, but also the rigid legislative internal systems at the state universities, which doesn't allow them to be more flexible with working with the businesses. And that's something I think the government should work more to support the development. And the last factors I would say would be internationalization and lack of funding. And as I said, like those two also goes back to the first problem that I see in the TT development in Georgia, and that's we have to define the vector. We have to choose some of the sectors that we'll concentrate on and just put all the funding or all the internationalizing efforts towards that. And that could really give us some results and just give us the place in the world marketplace towards developing some of the products. And that's going to be very important. I think the COVID situation has really heightened the need of the technology transfer issue, because it really has changed lots of stuff, and it has impacted technology sector. It has also disrupted value chains, and the need to respond to it right away was apparent, but I don't think that the Georgian market or Georgian research centers or the academia was on its own ready just to provide like how can we deal with it, what is out there we can do, and how we can provide right away the solutions that could improve those new value chains that have been created. So I think the COVID-19 has only heightened the need and how apparent close it is that we need the academia and research has to work really close to the marketplace. I think that this time, like I'll try to concentrate like what we've done in BTU and how we do see the solution towards it. But as I said, it's a lot has to be done on the national level. As a university, what we have done is we have defined our own vector. We have this year we have defined that we'll be just concentrated on Initiative 5.0, and the Initiative 5.0 will cover certain topics that will be researched by us and are recommended by the businesses locally and globally. So we've done desk research, just identified the trends. We have defined like what is out there that we have to work on, what is the future and how it's going to be relevant. And we all we're going to work on the research topics of just those Initiative 5 topics. So that's very important for us. So we have like a certain path and we won't be covering everything or anything. We have also, I think that's something we're working on right now, but it's still a work in progress. And I think UNICO.ai will be very helpful to us to just give us some idea of developing technology transfer offices. And they have been very helpful in US, they've been very helpful in Germany, France, and all the examples that we have seen. But as I said, it does require lots of funding. And I don't think that any of the universities separately would be able to just follow up to that, especially at the initial level, until this research and all these activities that is done within the academia is commercialized. At the initial stage, I think the government will have to just support or like international organization to work on developing TTO services, right? The final thing I would say, and I think it's very specific to BTO, is that like besides the vector that we have chosen, we have tried to introduce the entrepreneurial mindset. So when we talk even with the researchers, we just want to let them know that like whatever you're doing, whatever you're working on, whether it is like in AI, whether it is in femtech, whether it is in agritech, like all those information can be entrepreneurial. All those information data you're collecting should be transferred into the market and should be useful, like whatever it is, product or technology, whatever it is. So this is something that we're working on currently. I think it's gonna take a while. And I think it would just make sense that many other, like if we have different supporters, different stakeholders involved in this, the result could be much more quicker that we see. This is all about, I think this is what
Thank you.
Discussion. And, yeah,
thank you so very much, Anna. It was interesting, the focus on having a common vision, this one vector for the R&D development, as well as the funding issues and the mindset, entrepreneurial mindset in the academic, among the academicians or academic.
Currently, like in most of the like post-Soviet countries, is that like research stays within the researcher, within the
and exceeding those boundaries. I think Irakli Kashibadze is best placed to give us his opinion, as he is housed in Free University and at the same time promoting entrepreneurial activities. Irakli, over to you. And because we only have 40 minutes left till the scheduled end of the meeting, 5 minutes, and then we'll have flow for the discussion. Thank you. Unmute yourself, please.
Sorry. Thank you, Khatuna, and greeting to all. It's a great pleasure for me to participate in this event. I'll be glad to share with you my experience of our organization. I'm representing the company Future Laboratory, which is an innovation management and consulting company. We are operating in Georgia and in neighbor countries, helping to create, based on universities, different kind of innovative infrastructure. It's startup accelerators, also technology transfer centers, co-working space. We established first innovation center together with University of Georgia. It was our first project in Georgia. It's an innovation center, UG Startup Factory, which includes startup accelerator, co-working space, and also technology transfers center. This both the concept was developed by our company, and we analyzed the main the problems, circumstances, why still the technology transfer process doesn't work so properly in Georgia, and why it's not going so actively. Why the scientists, which it's great assets of Georgia, that we still has a lot of great scientists, and we could use this fundamental knowledge in the process of technology transfer. But what we have, it's a lack of understanding of businesses in, first of all, how the scientists could help them, because they unfortunately has a not so good experience of cooperation. Maybe we know that a lot of scientists tried to explain what they would like to do for the businesses, but the both misunderstanding of the processes and possibilities created finally this negative results. We decided to change the system of approaches, that how the scientists should cooperate and interact with businesses, and at the same time how the businesses could better understood the potential of applied R&D, not only applied but also fundamental R&D, and start the creation of the system based on University of Georgia. We initiated absolutely different approaches, and first of all, we started making the innovation audit of private companies. This innovation audit was oriented on identification of current problems of the businesses and what current weaknesses they do have, and how these weaknesses could be improved with involvement of different scientists from different directions. We got several examples with cooperation of different business structure. On the other hand, we also made assessment of current current capacities of scientists to identify the areas of specialization and the topics they could work on. This example of a cooperation might be provided, successful cooperation with one of a factory of production of apple concentrate from the Gori, and we identified that they have a lot of waste of final production. It's apple waste that they are gifting to farmers, or not using it for all. We involved that organic chemistries, also biotechnologies, also that's the startups which could use the territory which this factory had a lot. And there was developed approximately 6 products which could raise the which would create added value products for them, and provide 6 times more revenue from the waste that they are getting from traditional production that currently they have in their factory.
How many did they adopt? How many of the solutions? So you developed, they were adopted.
Yeah. As I mentioned, we connected and used the scientists from different universities. So Tbilisi State University, from Free University, Turmishidze Institute. Also, there was a startups which worked on hydroponic farming and other tools. But yeah, there was not adopted a lot that they liked, and we moved and created test pilot project with several scientists. But what is the problem from the countryside and from perspectives of governmental support, that such kind of adaptation of R&D processes need huge resources. Sometimes the businesses are not ready to invest in such kind of processes, and they more like to buy ready-to-use products. But at the same time, they see the opportunity. They saw also the great results of getting of pectin, of getting of also proteins from this mess, getting other interesting products. But finally, to start the production, they need to invest a lot of money into this. And there is two potential way of such kind of investments, like doing several countries. It's the possibilities, the possibilities of use of taxes for R&D or some government subsidies. Yeah, and why also we united all this process with Startup Accelerator, because to create the innovation ecosystem in the country, you need very close connection of scientists, scientific inventions, and all this competitive knowledge with entrepreneurs, which could drive all these processes in the country. Because startup, it's different blocks, and the entrepreneur connecting all these blocks in one place. For the previous time, our scientists had no other chance, and they needed to become also entrepreneurs, and it's not their job. They are more stronger in research side, but it's also one of negative results. It's they try to explain to someone what to do and how it might be used, the invention or knowledge, but the lack of entrepreneurial skills not created the successful the good final of all this journey. Yeah, to conclude my short speech, it's that we need to organize better structured technology transfer usage, which will be oriented more on the identification of business problems. And that's why we created such kind of structure in University of Georgia together with business faculty students. And currently they are involved in all this chain by working with business companies. They're providing this very competitive research, and also providing the process of connecting with the scientists to organize this whole cycle of technology transfer.
Thank you very much, Irakli. I think these are all very valid points, especially for me personally, that focus on entrepreneur as a way of connecting all the different sides, the commercial side and the research side of things. We have a very interesting question from the audience on any ideas how can the state, for example, Ministry of Education and Science, can support the entrepreneurial learning and education in research R&D. To the panelists, to general audience as well. Feel free to ask questions. Irakli, if you can answer, and maybe others could also take over.
Okay. Yeah, thank you very much. It was related to R&D, as I mentioned. Yeah. By its nature, the R&D, it's also some kind of creative process, but it's we need to understand it's more better. That's creativity. It's not then you are original. It's the effective process of synthesis of different elements of knowledge which scientists has. Of course, they need to understand the current changes and priorities of businesses of the world. They need to have this understanding what is the future and be oriented on such kind of perspective. And of course, they need the access to such kind of research results. They need also to develop the soft skills, because the soft skills is important part of explanation what they are doing. It's sometimes it's not so easy for them to do this. And of course, we need better lean methodology and agile methodology in R&D to make the results more better, because the current cycles, maybe in I don't know very in detail, the current process of R&D in Research University of Georgia, but as I remember, it's pretty long. R&D process should not be long. It had to be used the agile methodology with concrete results in short period of time, and you need to test what you are doing on every stage.
Any other answers to how can the ministry help in supporting the entrepreneurial learning?
May I comment shortly?
Yes, sure, absolutely.
Yes. Thank you, Irakli, for successful story about apple waste and 6 times more benefits revenue. Unfortunately, today in Georgia the situation is the following. We have huge quantities of plant raw materials that are wasted. They go from forests, they come from agriculture, like straw and so on, and food industry. Firstly, wine, residues after wine production, after beer production, juice production, and so on and so on. You know, there are hundreds of tons of waste. Okay, sawdust, branch, and so on from forest, straw also, they can be burned. But other, from food industry, they go to the field and go to the river with pollution of our environment. At the same time, we can obtain huge, very interesting products. One of the examples was reported by Irakli. Unfortunately, another situation today, business doesn't know what can offer we researchers, and researchers don't know what problems has business. We talk about this many years. Irakli, when you was director of JITA, we talked about this. After this, at least 7 times ago. So somebody should create committee, I don't know, council and so on. Who, maybe you, Irakli, because you know already that indeed science can create money, not only technologies. Today we have technologies ready to use. We created company to sell enzyme. We are very competitive. we have received financial support from European Commission with participation of World Bank. But it is very small because we have today 15 liters fermenter. But if we will create 15 tons fermenter, we can give in a state budget tens of millions of dollars only with one enzyme. We created technology of probiotic production using plant raw materials. And this probiotic showed very good effect in poultry, for example, instead antibiotics. So we can completely avoid usage, application of antibiotics in animal husbandry and poultry and so on, using biological control without very safe, you know, very safe and very cheap. We are very competitive, but unfortunately we cannot promote and we can transfer our technology in business. Please help us.
Thank you very much. I would like to comment that sorry, Khatuna, that Georgia has one of the strongest in the world potential in biotechnologies, and we have a great scientist, and Mr. Vladimir Isashvili is one of our representatives, and I absolutely agree, and I will be ready to continue discussion on this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Khatuna, can I have my reflection?
By all means, yes, please. The floor is open to everybody for comments, so it doesn't need to be moderated. Please jump in with questions. Please.
Yeah, I just two reactions. I 100% agree with Anna and Iraklis said about the entrepreneurship. I don't think it needs to be necessarily connected with business only. Entrepreneurship for me is for the researchers to understand like the principles like problem-oriented research, etc., etc. So I think it's important. And towards the question how ministries can support this, I think the first step is to clearly state that it's important and that universities should be doing this as well, not only doing like education and basic research. And it's important, the third role in just helping solve not only business needs, but societal challenges and needs. I think it's important to clearly state it's what like they want or what is like a good thing, because very often the researchers from my experience say, no, we are not here to just solve some challenges or just doing business. We are here to educate people and to do some basic research. And that's true. But still there's this third role, and I think it's important to clearly state this. And the second question I posted in the discussion, the NGO sector, I think is important from the NGO sector to supply the academia with the challenges and helping to define what they think is important to solve. Because academicians, in my experience, they don't have problems like solving problems, but they are struggling with, you know, defining those problems, because they very often define strange like challenges they want to solve based on what they know and what they think is important, and sometimes it's not important at all. So I think it's an important role of the NGO from specific fields, because they understand the challenges, they understand the problems, and supply these problems to academicians who can solve them. So help the academicians to solve the right things.
Can't agree more. Any other reflections? Please.
I can jump in just for a few small comment.
Thank you.
Last year I was in Sweden on very like interesting program, and they brought us to the.
Can you say also who you are, please, because we haven't had the round yet.
I'm a co-founder of Impact Hub Tbilisi, which is a co-working space, and we're supporting like entrepreneurship and entrepreneurial ecosystem in Georgia here with different programs and projects. So, when I received your invitation, Khatuna, to this conference, I was very happy because A year ago, we were in Sweden on a very interesting program, and they brought us to a research institute. So my expectation was that I would have been entered to the room and meet many very interesting people, elderly people, but to my surprise, I entered the room and the researchers working on their topics, they were younger, much younger than me. So this is, I think, the problem in our country, that young people are not interested in research. And what I think that might be a reason is that their work is, the work of the researcher is not valued, not financially, and not like they are working on some topics and nobody sees their results, you know? And then we had different like topics discussed there in Sweden, and they matched like research together with data visualization, you know, when students are working on different topics and then this is visualized so that the broader audience sees their work, you know, and it's not just in the library and nobody sees their work. So I think that we need to somehow change the mindset of young people, that the research, the scientific work is very much valued all over the world, and we should do it the same in Georgia. So it needs like collaboration among like private sector and NGOs as well, and government as well. So we should like join our efforts to like promote this field. This is like very shortly.
Thank you so very much, Kathy. I can't agree more. About 5 years ago, we had a very, very interesting event when we were just learning how to design services. And we were hosted by a scientific library. And we have them here today on board. Perhaps the place, we were rethinking the concept of the scientific library, how to make it more relevant to today. What can it offer to today's young people? Maybe one of the places where this can happen, like this collaborative work, also visualizing and making it public, could be that. I don't know, their ideas would also be very interesting in this regard. Just personal observation. Any other comments?
I think the idea of academia aging, it's not the issue only Georgia. It's not only the issue of post-Soviet countries, but it's the issue of European countries. I don't understand in which, yes, actually the young generation is doing Ketevan, the science actually, but they are mostly postdocs. And while we have no postdoc positions in our universities, why we are not supporting their career development, that's I think we would not achieve very significant results. And on the other hand, it's about not only the financial issues, but I also, it's asymmetries between tech providers and receivers that we face at this moment. For instance, if the programs are if the providers are disseminating their knowledge that is too sophisticated and they are meeting the society, they have no experiences in that, of course we will get a huge problem in using properly the instrument that is already that exists. A lack of developed infrastructure in universities, and unfortunately brain drain. Every guy who has the possibility to find the scientific career in other countries, they are leaving our countries. And I understand, because as I read recently, most developed countries, they are hunting for these brains, you know that. And lack of management, lack of planning what we are doing in our research and in which direction we want to develop. It's not only the commercialization, but also how we can support the ideas that Vladimir already told, how we are supporting, why we need to bring some type of new providers, tech providers from outside, and how our research supports the ideas we need inside. That's also very important, and I think that these experts, expert.ai will support, for instance, for data gathering, and yes, of course, and there is a small pool of scientists. They can give the real support for issues. And I also thinking about it. We have a too small market for outsiders. We are too small for big markets, but we can support tech transfer in the meaning of making big data, in the meaning of artificial intelligence, and we can be a hub for certain region for this region. It's my best vision of the future, I think.
Thank you very much, Nino. We are slightly over time. And we still want 2 minutes of your time for Carla to explore what would you think would be this, as you probably saw from the invitation, we are having series of roundtables, mainly about connecting research on one hand and public sector. And today we added the private sector angle to this. And we were focusing on different branches to it. So I'm over to Carla Kotkova, who is our Czech expert, creating this direction. Carla, over to you, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Katuna, and good evening, everyone. I would like to build up on what Katuna said and emphasize that actually before we wrap up, this is not a single event. We have this roundtable series called Research for Policy ongoing since end of last year. And it's a UNDP Georgia initiative that brings on board partner organizations, innovators, academicians, and decision makers within the framework of Czech UNDP Partnership for SDGs. And the overall objective actually is to contribute to evidence-based policy and service design in Georgia. To this end, we provide a platform for dialogue between experts in research and policymakers. We had to put our work on hold during the first wave of COVID-19 pandemic, but we resumed our meetings in October, and we've already had 2 sessions. In the October session, we focused on care economy before and after the COVID-19 pandemic. And we had a mixed group of researchers who focus on this topic, Czech experts who actually applied their research towards designing policy and bettering the role of home caregivers in Georgia during the pandemic and after. We also discussed issues pertaining to the role of technology in providing care to fragile groups in Georgia. And in November, we discussed the relatively low uptake of HIV testing in Georgia and the ways COVID-19 contributes to it. But we also showed 2 very interesting innovative research approaches to tackle this through mixed methods, combining narrative analysis and randomized control trial, through which we also wanted to increase the awareness of policymakers and decision makers of the relevance of social science research and how can they actually make the benefit of these methodologies. So we would like to continue with this initiative next year as well, seeing that we will live in the online world for a little bit longer because of COVID and so on. And we are currently in the process of defining our topics for the next year. We will have probably one more meeting this year, which will be more training based. It would be a webinar on using research platforms. So we will be back shortly with detailed information about this event. But in the meantime, I would like to ask my colleague Jonas to provide you with a poll question, because we are interested whether you would be more keen to have more focused sessions devoted to specific methodologies, innovative methodologies, and their application to policy and practice, or rather thematic roundtables in one of the development areas, such as we had in the past, meaning healthcare, HIV, gender-related issues, and so on. We can also, of course, today we are turning to more life science and technology-based areas, but we can also focus, as we did in one of the roundtables, on both of these approaches, showing through a specific methodology how a particular thematic area can be affected. So please let us know in the poll that just popped up on your screen. It will help us a lot to design this series for the next year. In the meantime, I would very much like to thank everybody for being here today. I think we've had the biggest amount of participants so far, and I already see the poll results that tell us that you would be more interested in innovative methodologies. However, we also have people interested in thematic roundtables, and maybe it's best to combine them. Thank you very much for participating in this survey. And I would like to maybe give the floor once more to Katuna to wrap up. We're already slightly over time, so she will.
Yes, we're over time, and I thank everybody for your time, because you're still with us. Any comments that you would like to share in the future, you have my invitation. Please feel free. You have contacts of our colleagues from Czech side, so please feel free to reach out to us. We would like to continue this conversation because we think that it's important, since number of people joining us is increasing, and it's really up to us to make things happen. So as a if Pavel also commented here that always happy to share the results of his experience in Prague. So I think this is kind of the best result that we could only have. I personally have many ideas about what could be incorporated in our own programming within UNDP, and my colleagues who attended probably will agree with me. If there are any comments that you would like to add, wishes to express, please, floor is yours. Otherwise, we don't want to take too much of your time. Yeah, we have messages. These are thanking, yeah. Thank you very much. We hope that we'll be back. Thanks to panelists, thanks to presenters, thanks to partners. Thank you very much. And stay safe. And we hope that next time we will meet in person as well in the future.
Thank you. Thank you, Hatuna.
Thank you.
Thank you, all panelists. Yeah.
It was very interesting. Thank you for your comments. They are really, really very interesting. I personally think that we organized the startup competitions. We could have a specialized startup challenge based on what you discussed in Agriculture University. Why not? Okay. Because that's an interesting area. Just to do the list, for example, Anna is here, and Anna will probably agree with me that could be one of the ideas. But yeah, but probably this is a subject of another discussion in another format. And any other suggestions are more than welcome. Please write and reach out. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you very much.
Bye. Didi madloba ჩვენს თარჯიმას ნინოს. Nino, thank you very much for all your work translation.
Didi madloba შეხვედრისთვის, მოდერაციისთვის.
Didi madloba. Nino madloba, Nino. გამეხარდა რომ აქ ხარ.
მეც ძალიან ხათუნა და გავაგრძელოთ, იმიტომ რომ საინტერესო იდეები შემოგთავაზე ამ წუთას საუბარში შენ ბიბლიოთეკასთან დაკავშირებით. მადლობა.
მადლობა, ნახვამდის. ხათუნა პერსონალურად დიდი მადლობა თქვენ, იმიტომ რომ მართლა ძალიან საინტერესო იყო და რაღაც ახალგაზრდული ინიციატივები შეიძლება წამოვიდეს ამასთან დაკავშირებით, რომ წამოვწიოთ ახალგაზრდობაში.
აი უკვე თქვენს ხელშია თათია.
დიდი მადლობა ხათუნა და ყველა მომხმარებელს.
დიდი მადლობა ნინო.
კარგად გრძანდებოდეთ.
კარგად გრძანდებოდეთ. დიდი მადლობა ხათუნა, ძალიან საინტერესო იყო.
მადლობა ხათუნა, კარგად გემშვიდობებით ყველას. დიდი მადლობა. გემშვიდობებით ჯანმრთელობა და წარმატებები.
Madlova. Stay safe, guys. Yes.